All right, hello and welcome. What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Wanted to put my 2 cents into the ring here on this Commander ban thing that's got everybody really upset and honestly, rightfully so. I am a Commander player. I've got 9 or 10 decks, all in sort of the casual budget space, but it's a format that I do really enjoy playing, and I've been wanting to put some content out there for Commander, so I figured what better time to do that than right now. So let me know in the comments if this is something that you do want to see from me or not, or what kind of stuff you want to see. It's all very helpful. I appreciate the support that you always give to this channel. Click like, click subscribe, share it with your friends. Let's have some conversations in the comments below. This is going to be a little bit more like shooting from the hip, off the cuff, ranty video. So here we go. Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt, Dockside Distortionist, all banned as everyone knows. These cards were all in and around $100 or maybe even more than that. And now they're presumably worth nothing, as I don't think that they're really applicable to any other format, with the exception of maybe Mana Crypt in Vintage, if anybody still plays that. Of course, you can put these in cubes and whatnot, but yeah, pretty well destroyed the use and value of these cards kind of overnight. And a lot of folks, rightfully so, super upset about this because, if you spent $300, $400, $500, $600 getting the copies of these cards that you needed for your Commander decks, and now you can no longer use them, and you probably can't sell them to anybody either, because I bet you all those buy lists are well closed by now. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be really upset about that, and especially if you sort of feel like the company pulled one over on you, WotC that is, by releasing whatever the latest Masters product was with some of these cards included, and then, sold a bunch of packs of those, and then went ahead and banned the cards, because this was an action that was taken with WotC and the Commander Rules Committee together. So obviously they've been thinking about doing this for a while, and decided to pull the plug now. Yeah, you absolutely have a right to be upset, and I'm sorry that that you're going through this and that you did lose this money. And yeah, I mean, it's just a huge bummer. So with that sort of said, I wanted to just sort of talk a little bit about my opinions on it, and then sort of my approach to the format and how I try to avoid getting burned in this way, and like what folks can do to sort of protect themselves from this, and I think ultimately have more fun in the format, especially if you're looking at getting into the format and thinking, wow, this is so expensive, and then they just go and ban cards. Like, how can I ever even play this format? Well, I think you can, and I wanted to sort of just, again, put my 2 cents into the ring here. So here we go. So I think this probably mostly affects competitive CEDH, if you will, players, where you're entering tournaments against decks that are just absolutely optimized to win the game as quickly as possible, and therefore you need to include as many of these busted mana generating cards as you can in your deck, and that totally makes sense if your only goal is to try to win, right? And now I would wager that like a lot of competitive Commander players aren't too upset about this. I mean, I'm sure they're upset, but if you play competitive, what I'm trying to say is you understand that cards can get banned at any time, and that cards fluctuate in value based on how good they are. So like, if a card is really dominating a format, not only is it going to be very expensive, but it's also, at risk of being banned at any point, which is what happened here. So like I said, I do not play competitive EDH, but I am old enough to remember my days as a competitive Modern player. I went to a couple of Grand Prix and tournaments and all that, and I played Splinter Twin for quite a while, and that was a deck that I invested a lot of time and money into putting together and learning how to play it and all the rest of it. And then one day they decided that it was too powerful, and the entire format was warped around whether or not you could interact with Splinter Twin on turn 4 from your opponent or not, or if you were faster than that or slower than that. And it sort of constrained how people could build decks in the format. Of course, it's all out the window now because Modern is just like completely broken as far as I can tell. I don't play it anymore, but at the time, this was the reasoning for this, and it does sort of harken back to this. Their reasoning for these bans in certain ways is how quickly decks can win and how difficult it is for other decks to interact with what those decks are doing. So back in whatever year this was, probably like 2010-ish or something, they banned Twin and Dig Through Time, and my deck was no longer playable. So I had to shift to something else. I think it turned into like a Blood Moon deck or something like that. But anyway, someone in the comments will probably remember what happened. But that's what I signed up for as a competitive Modern player. Was I bummed out? Absolutely. Did it affect my relationship with playing competitive Modern? Absolutely. I definitely would have stepped away for some amount of time. And had to reevaluate things. So yeah, I mean, it sucks. There's no other way around it. But that's sort of what you're looking at if you're talking about a competitive format. If you're talking about a casual format, I mean, that hurts, I think, in a different way because you spend a lot of money on these cards. You're hoping to be able to play with them for years and years and years, and get to enjoy them. And then now all of a sudden you don't, right? But the way that I look at EDH as a casual format is you don't need the most powerful stuff in your deck at all times. In fact, you don't really want, in my opinion, I don't want the most powerful cards in my decks all the time, and I'll explain why. So for me, in my experience, I find the fun of Commander and like brewing Commander decks to be about the creativity, the interesting cards, the kind of cool niche interactions, the jankiness of it, and just the fun sort of game states that can come up. And so for me, like the most powerful staples of the format don't really pique my interest that much. I'm not like super excited to play with those cards. I'm certainly not super excited to see them. Like whatever, I'll play through whatever. Like I've been playing Magic for, I don't know, 30 years or something. So like I don't get too fussed if somebody's doing something powerful. But to me, like it's not really something that piques my interest in the way I want to engage with this format. So even cards like Command Tower, Arcane Signet, Sol Ring, like the fact that every deck list that I do or anybody else makes, like any deck list you make starts with these three cards, it's a little bit like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, yeah, I'm going to put these in. Path of Ancestry is probably another one that's going to start to be in like 98% of decks or whatever. And on one hand, I appreciate that these cards exist because they make the format more accessible to folks that are trying to get into it, right? Easy mana fixing, easy ramp. It's cheap. It's not difficult to find. They reprint these all the time. That's great. So people can get into the game. But there is part of me that's like, I guess I got to put Sol Ring in my deck. Otherwise, like, I'm missing some power level or whatever, right? So, even though they said they're not going to touch Sol Ring, like it wouldn't surprise me if one day they do. But it won't be that big of a deal because it's only like $1 card. So, if you're thinking along the lines of these cards that are ubiquitous and way too good, and you're thinking what's next on the ban list, I would be looking at cards like these: Cyclonic Rift, Thassa's Oracle, Rhystic Study, Smothering Tithe, Mystic Remora. These are cards that you should, quote unquote, include in literally any deck that can play them, right? They're super powerful. They have very low opportunity cost, and they get you way ahead. Or in the case of Oracle, I guess if you have to be playing black, so you can play Consultation with it, Demonic Consultation, that is, so that you can win right on the spot, right? So these are all cards that you, quote unquote, should be including in any deck that can play them. But in reality, like, how fun are these really, right? Like Cyclonic Rift is like, yeah, you blow up everybody else's board except yours. It's like, cool. Thassa's Oracle, you just win right away. And then I guess it's a new game. Or like I've seen games where it's like, okay, the person oracles off. And then it's like, okay, well, the rest of us kind of want to play for second place. So like, can we keep going kind of thing? So it's a bit of a like, anticlimactic ending to like what could have been a cool game. Again, this is all my opinion. You can disagree with me if you want. Rhystic Study and Smothering Tithe and Mystic Remora all have a huge burden of everybody remembering the triggers, the person who controls the card. Every time somebody does something, they go, oh, are you going to pay that? Are you not? Oh, I get this, I get that. Oh, and then people forget and, whatever else. So there's a huge burden on the game, and I don't think that it necessarily makes the game more fun. They're certainly very powerful for the person who controls them. But again, as you're sort of going to find out, it's like my opinion is not really that you should be doing the most powerful thing you can in Commander. To me, it's a casual format. I just want to have fun. I want to sit down. I want to play with some cool cards I haven't seen before. I want to see some cool stuff I've never seen before. and just have more of a casual good time. I don't want to sort of take over the table with all kinds of sort of rulesy, intense stuff that these cards kind of tend to bring up, right? So winning for me in Commander is not important really at all. I just want to have fun. I want the people around me to have fun. If there's somebody at the table who's new, I want to make sure that they're having a good time and they feel like they're doing some fun stuff as well. Now, if I'm playing draft, as you all well know, I want to win at all costs. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm always going to draft the best deck I can. I'm going to play with the best cards in the format. But for me, that's my competitive format. That's my, I'm really trying to win format. Commander to me is not that, right? And I think that's true for a lot of folks. So when we talk about Rule 0 or whatever that is, like the pregame conversation of like how powerful everyone's deck is, I think the easiest way to not have to worry about that at all, if you're a person who's like coming in and you're like, oh, I don't want to ruin anyone's day. I don't want to be the guy at the table who's got the overpowered deck or whatever. This is where I think playing budget is the best way to play Commander. Power level of the cards is kind of policed, if you will, by the price of the cards. If cards are too powerful, they're going to be really expensive because everyone's going to want them, especially the competitive crowd, right? So if you stay away from the if you stay away from the expensive cards, not only are you saving yourself some money, saving yourself some risk too, right? Because expensive cards can get reprinted and go down in value, or they can get banned, as we just saw, right? And you're also keeping the power level of your deck in check with what else is going on. And that's not to say that your deck won't be powerful at all. There's very good decks that can be built with less expensive, cheap budget cards that can fit together in a really cool and synergistic way to make what I would consider to be a more interesting, more fun deck to build and to pilot than the deck that just slams Smothering Tithe every time and cool. So that's my opinion. Like I don't mean to, again, like I don't want to throw shade. Like I would be happy to play against any deck, but to me, that's not something that I want to put down on the table and then have everybody else have to fight through. So, so that's sort of my opinion there. Like I will play to win. I will do my best to win with the cards that I've put in my deck, but it doesn't feel good to me to like combo off or like take a 10-minute turn and kill the whole table. Because I can feel in the other players at the table that they're kind of like, or whatever. That not everybody's in for that type of experience. It's to me, it's more of a social sort of. We're hanging out, we're having fun. Like I want to see some wacky stuff happen, rather than I want to mill my whole deck out and kill you with Thassa's Oracle. And it can get pretty deterministic, where your deck is quite able to do that with regularity. And then even for just not only for the other people at the table, but for the person playing the deck, it's like, how many times do I want to do this? I'd rather like have some wacky stuff happen and win in a cool, interesting way. Maybe bust out a couple cards that like people are like, wow, what does that do? What set is that from? I've never seen that before. That kind of stuff is what I enjoy about Commander. So it's kind of a win-win-win here, right? You save money by not buying the expensive cards. Then you have a more interesting deck building and gameplay and social experience, and you're not the person at the table with the turn 3 Rhystic Study and everybody else is kind of groaning at you, right? So that is my sort of take on that. And I had a couple of things written down here. Yeah, right. So of the decks that I own, the ones that I'm least likely to reach for when it's time to like bust out a game are Muldrotha, because it's ultimately like a prison deck. If this deck is winning, then nobody else can really do anything because I've kind of got a lock going where I'm, reanimating the same stuff every turn and locking people out of the game. It takes forever to win, and I've got to go through my graveyard, and that's like 50 cards or whatever, and it's a burdensome sort of deck to play against, and it's a bit of a pain. And so I haven't been reaching for it, even though I was really excited to build it at the time. After actually playing with it, it just doesn't hit in the same way. Sithis, in a kind of a similar way, like I loved Enchantress decks. I used to play Legacy back in the day, so I was like, oh, this will be cool. I'll make a Commander deck. But really, it's just like, you end up with 15 cards in your hand and like, whatever enchantments you're playing don't really matter. Nobody can attack you because you've got like Ghostly Prison and Sphere of Safety out and Karmic Justice. And so if anybody touches you, they just get blown right back. And all your stuff has hexproof. And it's like, yeah, I mean, this just isn't really that interesting for for me or anybody else. So I just don't gravitate towards that deck. I do like to have it in the rotation though, because I think it is kind of a nice one for newer players. It's pretty straightforward what it's trying to do, but it just doesn't grip me. And finally, Veyran's another one that I was super excited to build. I was like, oh, this will be a cool storm deck. It'll be all combo and stuff. And it's like, yeah, this deck can kill the whole table in one turn, but it's also like, I'm getting my napkin out. I'm doing math. I'm like trying to remember how many times I've cast spells this turn. And like everybody's just kind of taking my word for it that I did the math right, and they're just all dead. And it's like, all right, I guess we'll just play another game or not. I don't know. So it's just these three in particular for these reasons and these aren't even like super juiced lists with the aforementioned banned cards in them. And this is why Nadu, I didn't even mention Nadu, but that's why Nadu got banned. It's because people just take forever to win with it or whatever, and it's kind of boring for the other people at the table, right? So just because of the play patterns and the way these decks win, I don't even want to pick these up. And these aren't even super expensive decks. So I'll just close off. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm actually converting this Muldrotha deck into a different deck, and I'll show you what that deck is. It's a Sidisi Brood Tyrant deck. So rather than like the prison style, I'm going to... I wonder if I can zoom in on these. Oh, no, I can't. Really? That's annoying. Rather than the prison style of like... I'm going to reanimate the same things every turn. I'm going to have Spore Frog in play every turn so no one can attack me. I'm going to play Ashiok and nobody can search the library and like all this prison-y kind of stuff. Sidisi seems a lot more fun. Whenever you mill a creature, you put a 2/2 zombie token into play and make a huge army of zombies. Still get to do the self-mill graveyard stuff, but like in a more proactive kind of fun way. I'm going to have like 20 zombie tokens in play and everybody's going to have to, deal with that. And like that to me is a bit more fun and it's a bit easier to interact with, right? Like somebody can play Wrath of God and it's like, okay, I got to build up again and like that kind of stuff. So Sidisi, right? 49 cents. This is the other thing about playing budget is I look for cards that are like under $1, under $2. If you're worried about value, if you're worried about long-term value and your collection appreciating in value over time, which I wouldn't, that's another thing too, is like if you're treating your collection like a stock portfolio, I would really recommend against doing that. But if you are doing that, then you need to be selling your cards when they spike in value. Like if you were holding Shuko, the card that combos with Nadu, the 1-mana equipment, 0 to equip, and that shot up to like $30. Like you have to sell those when they spike like that. And if you don't, then you're playing the stock market game wrong. But I wouldn't advise using Magic cards as investment pieces at all. So please, know that that's my position on this. But if you are worried about that and value, and everybody's worried about it, everybody thinks about value. So, my cards are worth money, all this stuff, right? Of course. So buy cards that are cheap. They can't really go down, right? This Sidisi is 49 cents. It's not... it goes down to 39 cents. Who cares, right? It's not $10 and then all of a sudden one day it's 50 cents because it got reprinted. So buy cheap cards like that. Buy foil. I always buy foil now because I find that foils hold their value way better. You do have to take care of them a little bit better, and some of them do curl, which is annoying, but I happen to like the foil treatments and they do hold their value quite well. So if you buy a foil Sidisi, like, I don't know, let's see, can we even see here? This is Architect, by the way. This is a great tool for this stuff. Foil Sidisi, 79 cents. Great. Grab that. Grab first editions, too, where you can. So, for the example, this one, Khans of Tarkir, is the first... that's not the right one. Yikes. 99 cents for a non-foil, $3 for a foil. So, that's getting a bit pricey. But, buy first edition printings where you can, buy foil where you can, that stuff will hold its value and increase in the long term. And if you started with a card that was only like $1 or whatever, then it has nowhere to go. It can't go down, right? So, cool. So I'll just, this is just a draft of this deck. I haven't put it together or anything like that, but any cards that are more expensive, like Birds of Paradise, Deathrite Shaman, these are all cards that I just happen to own from back in the day. I would not buy these now because there's so many good options, right? All these elves are like $1. You can just play these instead. You don't need to spend $8 on a Birds. If this gets reprinted and it goes down to $3, then you pick it up then. So just sort of pick your spots there, right? Some of these Fallout cards are really cheap, so that's cool. I haven't seen those yet. Gitrog Monster is another one that's like, it's $9. I wouldn't buy this now. It's not a very exciting card, right? It's like, okay, it gives you exploration. You can play extra lands every turn, and then you draw cards when lands go to your graveyard. It's a card advantage engine. You get to play extra lands. I don't even know if this actually fits in the deck, to be honest. It's just a quote-unquote good card. And that's the other thing that I want to hammer home here is like when I build decks for Commander, I want them to all kind of feel synergistic, feel on theme. I don't like having cards that are just good because I just don't find it to be all that interesting, right? So like something like Undead Augur, this is really cool. It works specifically with my zombies. If I can find ways to sacrifice them, then I get to draw extra cards. It's only 69 cents. Awesome. Kessig Cage Breakers. Like I could play Craterhoof Behemoth in this deck. The 8 mana, whatever, gives everything a million trample and kills everybody. But this is 49 cents. It's 5 mana 3/4. When it attacks, you get a 2/2 for each creature in your graveyard, and they're all attacking. So if you've milled most of your deck and your deck is mostly creatures, then this is going to, kind of do the same thing. But people are going to be like, oh, cool, I haven't seen that. What does that do? What set is that from? That's cool. That's the kind of stuff that I like. Dread Return's a really cool card. It's super cheap now. This probably used to be like $5 or $6 before it got reprinted a bunch. So now, you can pick it up for 35 cents. Living Death is one I'm looking at. I don't know if I will buy it, but 5 is pretty good for this. It's quite low. This card has been 10, 15, $20, depending on its reprint situation and how many competitive decks were using it at the time in Modern and stuff like that. So, you want to pick your spots, because if you spend 20 or $30 on a card like this and then it gets reprinted, you don't want that feel bad moment. And the other thing I should mention too, that I kind of this video is getting a bit long, but like it's only one card, right? If I don't have Living Death, my deck is still going to work. And more often than not, am I even going to see this card game to game? Like probably not, because I don't play with a lot of tutors, which comes back to the power level thing, and the tutors are all really expensive, so I wouldn't buy them anyways. I want to have a varied experience where I'm seeing different cards every game and getting to have those new experiences. Yes, I could put Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation in this deck and then put Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, Tutor, and kill everybody on turn 5 all the time or whatever, or maybe earlier. But that's not that interesting. I want to have fun. I want to make zombies. I want to mill myself. I want to put stuff. I want to get stuff back with Genesis. I want to give everything flying with Wonder. Like these are all sweet effects, right? So, it's one card. I don't need Living Death for this deck to be fun or good. If it's cheap and I want to get it, I'll pick it up. But I certainly wouldn't, drop a large amount of money. Similarly, and I think I'm getting to the end here. So like sweepers, right? Every deck needs a few sweepers. I could play Damnation in this deck, 2 black, destroy all creatures, but it's like 30 or $40 for that card, I think. I don't know. I haven't looked in a while. But yeah, I mean, and it's good. It would be great in the deck. But I could also play some cards that have some actual synergy and interesting interactions with the deck. So like something like Massacre Girl is most of the time going to kill everything on the board. Except for herself, which is kind of cool. But it's also a creature, which matters. You want a high creature count in for Sidisi's ability to trigger more often. So, it might actually be a better fit for the deck, and it's only 49 cents. Wicked. Knight Incarnate, similar. It's a little less powerful, but it's a creature. Everything gets -3/-3. That's going to clean up most of the problematic stuff you're looking to clean up with a Wrath effect, right? Like tokens decks and stuff like that. Excuse me. And this new card, Terror Tide, I guess it's not that new now, but this is essentially Damnation in this deck because we're going to be milling ourselves and everything's going to die. In fact, this is going to kill more stuff than Damnation does because it kills indestructible things stuff that I guess just indestructible, but that's still really good. So just some stuff to think about, right? Like, don't get too discouraged if you're trying to get into the format. You're looking at EDH Rec, you're looking at the prices of cards. I would really look out for some sweet, like there's some really good YouTube channels out there that do budget builds. And I just think that's a really great way to engage with the format. To me, it's more fun. It's certainly less expensive and you're less likely to get burned by something getting banned. And I guess the last thing I'll say here, it's like Lord of the Undead is a card I just happen to have. Like from when we were kids, we opened this in a pack. Like I would not spend $16 on this. You could buy Diregraph Captain for 59 cents. It's the same card. So stuff like that. The one thing I will break my own rule a little bit, and this is a card, Zagoth Triome, the Triland that I bought probably for about $12, I think, at some point. I can't remember, to be honest. If it's a card I'm going to see almost every game, right? Because I do happen to own some fetches from back in the day. Then yeah, sure, I can stomach spending a little bit more money on this card. But again, if you're just getting into the game, you don't need fetches, you don't need dual lands, you certainly don't need original dual lands. There's lots of really great cheap options. These Sunken Hollow type lands, they come into play tapped unless you control two or more basics. They can be fetched too by certain cards. Stuff like that. Stuff like the Pain lands just got reprinted a bunch, and those are nice and cheap now. There's lots of ways to fix your mana. Hinterland Harbor's only $1.79. This card used to be like $7 or $8. I probably paid $7 or $8 for it back when I played it in Standard or whatever. Now you can just get it for, almost nothing. So, anyway, this has been really rambly, very ranty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, let me know. If you didn't enjoy it, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are on all this stuff. I'm really sorry again if this ban has affected you in a negative way. I have a lot of sympathy for that. I think it's a huge bummer. And I've always sort of felt that it just sucks that cards just get so expensive in this game, because I think it would just be awesome if everybody could just sort of be involved and play and have fun and not be sort of burdened by the financial side of things. But I mean, that's never going to change. The only thing that we can do is sort of try to sidestep it, as I do, by trying not to buy the expensive cards and just having fun. It's supposed to be just a fun thing. So that's what I do with it. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time with some actual draft content. Peace. Bye for now.